Oh my God, I am so deep in this rabbit hole and I am bringing you with me. Buckle up, strap in. Oh my God, get ready to learn astrology. And I am going to take you into the depths of Jeffrey Epstein's natal chart. I'm also going to show you a couple things about Ghislaine's. Now, listen to me, listen to me. I need you to put a comment on here if you like this. This is just part one. This could take forever to do. And if enough of you people really love learning astrology through this, let me know. And I will go deep into, is he really alive? Does she have a body double? And I will go more into their lives together, what they did. I'll also look at those very important dates when he got arrested and why did he get off? Listen to me. If you have any of these same aspects, I want you to know you're not a monster. You know, astrology doesn't make a good chart or a bad chart a good person or a bad person. Let me tell you about this exercise. About 30 years ago, maybe 38 years ago, when I was in astrology school, my teacher asked me, she did a blind natal chart study with me. And she asked me, she took the names off and she said, which one is the bad guy, like awful, terrible criminal? Let's just say in the same genre as maybe Mr. Ted Bundy. And which one is the brilliant person who did great things for humanity and society? I looked at both of them. I didn't dare make a guess. I felt like it was a trick. And guess what? It was a trick because your chart doesn't do something to you. You are the expression on a continuum of unhealthy to healthy of every single one of your planets. And by the way, there's over 40,000 different things that we can see in a natal chart. So I'm going to share with you Jeffrey's, and you are coming with me down this rabbit hole. You're going to be really surprised. Okay, let's start with this. I'm going to show you a couple of my findings. Again, if you like the content, I just need 500 people to tell me so, and I will do an extended version of these natal charts and their synastry. It's really pretty wild. Again, if you have some of these same aspects, let's say you're born on the 0 degree Aquarius sun, that does not set you up to be a person like him. He made choices in his life, and I don't believe anybody is born to do heinous acts and heinous crimes like he did. I have to be a little bit careful because of the algorithm. So I'm going to speak in a way where you get my point without me having to say the terrible, no good, bad, awful things. And even if you don't know astrology very well, stick with me through this video. This is how you learn how to read a natal chart. And because you know him and what he did, he's all over the news, you'll be able to kind of see these aspects pretty easily. The first thing that I want to show you that I think is pretty revealing is what is on his ascendant, Chiron, right? Chiron is conjunct his ascendant in Capricorn. And when Chiron sits on the ascendant, the wound is actually visible. It's not hidden. And it becomes a part of his identity. So even if other people didn't see it, he saw his wound. He is very much in touch with being the wounded soul. And even if you and I can't see with the naked eye the wound, we have not seen his full body. And his wound is not hidden in his psyche. It literally is obvious to him, and he is probably living in a fear of it, and he is also probably feeling insecure about it as well. Now, I really hate to start with this, but because we're starting with Chiron on the ascendant, we know that he has a physical wound somehow, and it has shaped his psyche. And I will tell you that I Googled what was Jeffrey's physical wound. And I have it right here. And you can go to Ground News. You can also go to Como, and you can go to the-express.com. You can go to ladbible.com, and you can go do your research for yourself. But I am looking at this right now, and it says Epstein accuser describes alleged physical abnormality in the shape of Jeffrey Epstein down there. And many women said that it was 2 inches. We know that he ordered gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of Viagra, and it was the shape of an egg, and it was really, really, really small. And so I think nobody here is surprised. And there was this other traumatized victim that described this, and her name was Rena, and she disclosed the same exact thing in her testimony. She talks about it in her Substack, Rena O.H. She talks about his abnormality, if you will. And Como News says he was extremely deformed down there. So we're not that surprised, right? Sorry to start off with a bang. I told you guys to hold on to your hats. But, with Chiron here, it's like the wound becomes a self-definition, and you feel fundamentally flawed or different. And your early life experience start to shape a defensiveness about your personality. There can oftentimes be an early injury, a physical, emotional, or psychological injury to you that imprints on the person on how they present themselves to the world. And so specifically in Capricorn, the wound now makes me feel like I'm not in charge. I'm not good enough. I don't have status or authority or control or respect. And so this can manifest in the defensive position. Again, I'm going to be talking about his chart in the lowest form possible. So if you have this does not mean this is your wound, okay? You have something different. And it could have just been that your mother told you were not bright enough, or your mind wasn't working properly, or your body wasn't pretty enough, right? You could have inherited the wound just by believing somebody, and then that shapes your psyche. So please don't transfer what I'm saying about Jeffrey onto you. This is not universal. This is specific to this man. And we are studying a man's chart who could not become a darker shadow expression of these planetary positions. Okay, we have so much to talk about, and I gotta rock and roll with you, because this is just the hello. And okay, so let's just keep going. I just want you to know that with Capricorn, with this being in Capricorn, what happens is that the shadow expresses itself by being cold, by becoming emotionally detached, and that becomes the armor. So now we're working with an armadillo, if you will, and we're building a very powerful exterior to mask the feeling of his inner inadequacy. And we are now going to overcompensate with what is Capricorn so good at? Achievement. So we're going to become a hyper-controlled achiever. And we're going to have a projection, and we're going to project ourselves that way into the public until that becomes the perception of me. This sets him up to present like an authority, right? And who can he be an authority over? And why does he have a fetish for teenagers? I think 15, 14 years old is his ideal age. Why? Because that is who he can be an authority over. And he also took the virginity of many, many, many girls, and they wouldn't know the difference, right? A lot of these victims never had even seen anybody in the nude before. So they didn't know. Did you guys watch the television show on Netflix? When he got naked, one girl laughed herself silly. She had never in her life seen anybody in the nude. There we go. And that probably reinforced the trauma, right? So I want to tell you that sometimes when Chiron is on the ascendant, it is a wound that was either told to us that we have and we believed it, or it really, really became the wound so much that the body turns into its own armor to protect it. So there now becomes an avoidance of vulnerability. And there becomes a compulsive need, especially in Capricorn, to control the environment. If this is in Pisces, it's going to express itself differently. But there's also an emotional disassociation that's now going to start to occur. And so this kind of Chiron can build an armor where the person feels like, I refuse to appear weak at any cost. So he found more vulnerable people than himself to look powerful. This whole chart is about a persona, and it's going to get fascinating. Basically, this is, I think, creating in him a person whose core wound revolves around power and feeling inadequacy, and somebody who will construct a highly controlled, status-driven identity to defend against feeling fundamentally broken. Let's talk about something else. Mars is conjunct Venus in Pisces, right? We've already got that. In the second house, another house of the physical body. Very interesting. Okay, I think you guys already know. Give me a keyword for Mars, a keyword for Venus, right? So this is when desire, Mars, fuses with attraction, Venus, in Pisces, fantasy, and dissolving any boundaries. This whole chart has issues with boundaries. And in the second house, it's going to link pleasure, longing, and the fantasy to self-worth, the money, and sex. The second house and the eighth house are the axis of sex. And so the shadow can look like blurring the lines or living out a fantasy with blurred boundaries around, I possess you and I will have sex with you. Possessive sex. I own you. You're mine. Or using charm or sexuality to secure security. Financial entanglements. This is the house of money, driven by fantasy and confusing desire and devotion. So you will be devoted to me as long as I desire you. And if I desire you, I own you. Whatever planets are in the second house, that the second house shows us our relationship to ownership. And he's owning the fantasy. He's owning the sex. There's a spiritual indulgence with Pisces in this house. And Pisces amplifies the seduction, right? The second house makes it be about value and in exchange of money. What I own, what you're worth, what you're not worth, what I can acquire. So now I'm on a mission to acquire. What am I going to acquire? The illusion of love and sex. And then I'm going to sell it. Basically, I'm literally going to sell the illusion of sex and desire. So I'm going to hire women to pretend to desire you, for you to have sex with them, and I'm going to get paid for it. And so there's a real ability here to sacrifice ethics. Wherever you have Pisces, there's great sacrifice. I'm going to sacrifice ethics for physical gratification. And when self-worth, Chiron on the ascendant, is unstable or insecure, and these are connected. This Mars is in an exact sextile to Chiron. So they're working together. It's like sex, Mars becomes a tool to secure my value. In fantasy, the fantasy that I make up in my mind starts to become my remedy for me to feel better about my broken self. So let's talk about Mars conjunct Venus. I want you to look at how it's trine to Uranus, okay? It is in an exact trine. Mars is in an exact trine to Uranus, and it's only 1 degree away from Venus. So let me show you how we break this down. And again, he wasn't necessarily born to become a monster, but he did have probably eccentricities because this aspect in this exact trine, and this is where I want to teach you guys, trines are not always great. Trines are not always great. Trines create too much of a good thing, make something go terribly wrong. Like the first margarita was good, but the fifth margarita really ruined you, right? So we have this trine between Mars and Venus, sexuality and desire, Mars and Venus, and Uranus, which is now rebellious, disruptive, and unconventional, eccentric, and in his case, flat out weird. And it creates this sort of ease between this erotic drive and this you can't control me rebelliousness in him. Uranus wants to break the rules. Uranus wants nobody to control him. And look at how his Uranus is opposing Chiron and opposing his ascendant. We'll get to it in a minute. But now we're into taboos. We're into shock. We're into taking risks. And we kind of don't care what the consequences are because we're going to break the norms. And with Uranus here, we're going to outsmart the system. And we're going to do what other people can't because we're a rebel. We're a maverick. At least we think we are. So it's not the thrill of sex. It's the thrill of breaking all the rules and living in the taboo of it and doing whatever the hell we please. To whom? Other people inside our relationships, 7th house. There is also a detachment from emotional consequences. So Uranus is where you're emotionally detached and where you're very future oriented. So more, tomorrow. And when it flows in this ease, in this trine with Venus and Mars, there can be a disconnectedness to intimacy. Now sex can be explored without empathy and experimentally, and treating relationships like simulation or like a video game rather than a genuine connection. And so the shadow side of Uranus does not always feel the human consequence or the human cost of the disruption. They get addicted to the disruption, the breaking of the rules. There's also kind of an entitlement to unconventional desire because trines feel natural. They don't create friction. So it's like if someone has distorted values elsewhere in the chart, which he does, and strong power signatures or lack of empathy indicators like a moon in Aries, me, and me, and a 0 degrees sun, right, in the house of Aries, me, and me. We're working with full-blown narcissism here, where we're thinking about my desires will not be restricted and rules don't apply to me. That's that Uranus. And look at that Uranus. It's very, very prominent in this chart. That Uranus is a really big deal. We'll get to it. We're going to get to it. But I just want you guys to start seeing how to read a chart. The trine removes resistance. I think he escaped the radar because it was a trine. This was very easy for him to do for so long. And with the Mars in an exact trine to Uranus, now we're in a high thrill. Now we seek just more and more and bigger and bigger and bigger thrill. And when it's sexualized through Venus, it becomes erotic. And now we're into the fantasy of it all. And Pisces too. And so I think what's happening is it's a desensitization and it's FOMO, where I need to increase the stimulation. And I don't think he started out with the crimes that he ended with. And I'll let you guys do the research. The crimes are absolutely abhorrent and heinous and inhumane. And my imagination couldn't have even imagined these kinds of crimes. You're not going to find it on mainstream news. You got to go into the bowels of TikTok or YouTube to really get the truth about the crimes that he has been convicted of, or that have been alleged. But I'll just tell you, with this Mars trine Uranus, there is a need to escalate the taboo, the need to increase stimulation, and the pursuit of what is totally shocking and totally illicit. And Uranus wants the intensity. And without conscious integration, the desire and the need for the shock completely overrides ethics, because I believe I'm above it all. And we're going to go into this a little bit more deeply. When you look at this chart, you see that Neptune has the most aspects along with the nodal axis, and also, I believe, Mercury. And this Uranus is no small thing. And you have to realize that Saturn and Uranus are the rulers of his sun. And Saturn is the ruler of his chart. But that Neptune is in a T square to both Uranus and Chiron and Mercury. So that Neptune is really the deception. So he views rules as obstacles to get through. And I watched this incredible video where right before he died, he had an entire piece of paper that plotted his. We're going to go into this a little bit more deeply. When you look at this chart, you see that Neptune has the most aspects along with the nodal axis, and also, I believe, Mercury. And this Uranus is no small thing. And you have to realize that Saturn and Uranus are the rulers of his sun, and Saturn is the ruler of his chart. But that Neptune is in a T square to both Uranus and Chiron and Mercury. So that Neptune is really the deception. So he views rules as obstacles to get through. And I watched this incredible video where right before he died, he had an entire piece of paper that plotted his escape plan. He actually thought, when he was in jail for this last time, he thought he could still get out. He really, really believed it. I mean, he has the airplane hangar that he was going to leave by. He had every single solution to challenge or problem that might come up in his escape plan. And I'll just tell you that the trine in this chart, the Mars-Uranus, Venus-Uranus, it makes his deviant behavior feel internally justified. And his moral compass is compromised because he feels justified in this. And I'll tell you why he feels justified. It's that Pluto conjunct the south node. Now, and the vertex is there too. So he felt like he was a lucky duck. And somebody might have even set him up with enough sex, enough power, enough people, right? The seventh house, to use as a commodity or a resource or a powerful financial money bargaining chip. And I believe that Jeffrey was used. I believe that he was a power pawn. And I'll tell you why. This chart is not that powerful. It doesn't have an extraordinariness to it. I think he was a deeply insecure person, and somebody gave him the resources and the ability to create a fantasy life in order to blackmail others. And we're still going to figure out the reasons why, but I want to go deeper into his psyche. And so if you ever want to really study evolutionary astrology, by the way, I'm a modern evolutionary astrologer. That means I use the modern planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and the nodes. And if you want to know your past life, you have to study the nodes plus Pluto. And here we have the nodes working exact with Pluto. So let's go through it together. What does Pluto mean? And Pluto in Leo. First of all, you probably already know this about astrology because I talk about it a lot. But we know that there are two signs of royalty, Sagittarius and Leo. Those are the two kings. Sagittarius, it represented by the archetype of Zeus, the god of the universe or the god of all gods, and then the sun god, Apollo. So the sun, which is Leo's sign, and Jupiter, which is Sagittarius' sign, and also Pisces. And he has a lot of Pisces going on here. So we see his past life in the context of royalty because he's got his south node in Leo, and now it's conjunct Pluto, which is power. Pluto brings, and it tells us that he had a past life of power, domination, compulsion, control, taboo, and psychological extremes, also sexuality. And the south node, that's Pluto. And in Leo, we know that he probably was a king or a god in some way that had a lot of power and an ability to dominate, born this lifetime into a wound. And he's like, wait, I'm supposed to be special. I'm supposed to be really special. How can I have this deformity? What am I going to do with my life? How am I ever going to be desirable like I once was, right? And so now we have this karmic residue or this past life imprinting, this ingrained pattern of probably a very powerful and dominant shadow side narcissist. Yeah. And so the Leo is a big ego, a big important identity, performance, right? Like I know performance and I know how to get attention, create attention. I am creative. I am self-expressed and I am a royal archetype, except in this lifetime, you're not. Yeah. And so the soul is deeply familiar with royalty, power, and probably power that abuses, misused power. This is not like karma. You guys, this is deep. This is really, really deep. And I have to be honest with you. I actually kind of have like a stomach ache right now just talking about it. Ugh. It makes me so sick to my stomach. But if we can learn collectively about the dystopian world, the world filled with inhumane cruelty and malice, I think we can be wiser for it. And I think our children can be wiser for it and we can parent better. And I think we can be kinder, better people to one another. That's my hope. But I want to keep going. Even though I have a stomach ache, I want to keep going because I want you guys to learn. This past life in Leo, it's like there is a dynamic of who's going to dominate me. And it makes me even believe that Jeffrey was dominated, if you know what I mean. And I think he might have been used himself. And you can understand my implications. And he may have also controlled other people in his last life, or he was controlled, or both. And power and not having power and having too much power was tied to his identity. And so he had an ego that was infused with this intense, I am special, I am dominant, and had come from probably a very theatrical world. I think in his past life, he was made to feel very special and elevated and central, like the core, the nucleus of whatever community. And look what he did in this lifetime, right? He was the core. And when Pluto conjuncts that south node in Leo, it creates an identity rooted in superiority or a compulsion to dominate inside relationships. I will control you. I will psychologically control you. Why? Because it's in the seventh house. And this person, I believe, equates power with self-worth. And if I don't have any power down there, what use am I to the world, right? And so I have to trick people into having a sexual relationship with me. And I certainly am not going to be with grown ass women. I'm going to be with young girls so he could feel more powerful. Pluto tells me that he has a past life story. By the way, whatever your past life story is, you're coming in as an expert. You're coming in with those past life gifts, if you will, gifts or story or threads into this lifetime as an expert. And oftentimes we get stuck in our south node. He wasn't supposed to get stuck in his south node. He was supposed to move to his north node in Aquarius, but clearly he didn't do that real well. I think he did some of the north node in Aquarius in the first house, but he mostly did his past life, and he got stuck down in the ugly, ugly part of that well. There's a karmic memory here. And oftentimes we want to just, people who don't want to grow, we just repeat because we're good at it. We repeat what our past life experience was because it's the language that we automatically speak. And so in his past life, I think intensity and drama meant intimacy, and it doesn't. And I think he had dominance and submission themes in his past life with that Pluto. And I think that he psychologically started to understand people. He could see through people. He could see where your vulnerabilities are, what your weaknesses are. Then he indebted himself into you and your weaknesses. Then, like a good Pisces, he would heal you and make your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses go away. He would save and rescue you. So now you owed him and he owned you. And you are 14 years old, living in a trailer park with no resources. Yeah. So I want you to know that a Pluto aspect like this, if this is what you have as well, they don't inherently create cruelty. But when the person is undeveloped, the Pluto gets addicted to power and does not transform. This could have been a great opportunity for a soul to transform, but he didn't want to do that. It was more fun being entitled and living a dramatic life and needing to be worshipped and craving admiration at all costs to the point of moral bankruptcy. But he had developed a desire to psychologically control the rich and powerful and his victims. So he needed to have a reason why I can get the most powerful men in the world to submit to me. And he created an abundance of reasons, and he was good at it. Why? He was a king in a past life. Leo Pluto. He knows how to create the sexual playground, the sexual fantasy that every man wanted, right? And then Jeffrey could he had cameras. He had hidden cameras in every single room. He could make you indebted to him. And if you would not stay indebted to him, second house, like I own you now. And if you tried to talk or share, well, he's got something on you to force you, to dominate you into your indebtedness. And that's where we're at in the story right now. I believe that this Pluto South Node square Jupiter, right, in the fourth house, but in Taurus, is literally an addiction to sex. Taurus is, after Scorpio, maybe even before, it is the most sexual sign. And Jupiter, wherever you have Jupiter in the chart, this is where you will be exaggerated. Sex and money. Those were his addictions. And they turned into pathological cruelty because he couldn't get healthy around the South Node and Pluto. There was a moral disengagement, a moral bankruptcy. And he loved relationships, or what he did was he created a power imbalance where he owned you. He created a power imbalance, and he was very brilliant at doing that. A lot of people think that that's his, Mercury or his sun. No, I really think it's the psychological power of Pluto and Leo in the seventh house. In the seventh house, he is a mastermind, a psychological mastermind on people. What do you want and what do you need? And then I provide those to you. And I never allow the power to truly be equal. I just let it look like it is, right? I think his Mercury in Capricorn makes him strategic and calculated and a very controlled thinker. And that Mercury is in a square to Neptune. And Neptune in Libra is sort of an ability to have a charm. And that, isn't it interesting that he has that Saturn conjunct Neptune in Libra in the ninth house? And that's where I feel like he was set up in this lifetime as a foreign asset to go into power structures, Saturn, and dissolve and melt foreigners, melt the walls. And this is very fascinating with his relationship with Ghislaine. And I do think he was set up as a foreign asset here to get intel. Anyways, the square between Mercury in Capricorn and Neptune in Libra is a really, really big deal because it is his distorted perception chart signature. And when it's unconscious, it is calculated. It is cruel and cold, and it is as sadistic as it can get. Neptune in Libra is going to dissolve the boundary in our relationship. So I'm going to create an illusion that you are equal to me, but you're not. And it's going to sort of get you to trust me because I'm going to become a compulsive and strategic liar. And I'm going to create deception where you're not going to know it. You're going to see me as a moral authority with the Mercury in the first house in Capricorn. But really, I've got Neptune in there in a square aspect. And so I'm going to become highly skilled at lying to you, at gaslighting you, telling you you're crazy, and constructing really, really believable illusions. I'll take care of your family. I'll set you up with a modeling job. I'll get you a gig with Victoria's Secrets, right? I'm going to give you half truths. I'm going to sprinkle them. And I'm going to manipulate the contracts and the agreements that we have. And then I'm going to secret record you. Remember that Mercury is communication in all forms. And so it's me here on this recording with you right now. And it is manipulating the videos and the recordings and the emails and the phone calls. And Neptune puts a veil on it. It hides my motives. And I can seduce you, manipulate you, gaslight you, lie to you, deceive you, and you don't even know it, right? It's really, really, really sinister. And the square creates a part where there's a confusion between reality and fantasy, where the little girl who's now pregnant, giving birth to his child that he doesn't want to even keep alive, she starts to blame herself. And he makes her feel like she was bad and she was wrong. And so this is somebody who now intellectually, with great authority, justifies the illusions that he creates for some sort of survival mechanism. I don't get it. I don't get it. He set up the game where, hey, we both benefit. Very Libra, right? Saturn, Neptune in Libra. Like, hey, you benefit, I benefit. It's mutual. Hey, I got you the women, you got me the whatever. And it's sort of lying about the idealization of the equal power dynamic when it was never equal. And he always offered girls, and I think the men that he was with, power. Like, I've got a network, I've got a connection. And so I feel like his mind was living around a fantasy so much that he stopped even realizing where reality became compartmentalized or not even known. But the Neptune square Mercury is really big. And that Neptune is actually what we call a T square because it's square to Uranus breaking the rules, and it's also square to Chiron and Mercury, but it's in the tightest square to Mercury. And so it creates a double life. It creates cognitive projection or dissonance, believing one's own narrative to be the truth and living in pathological realities, if you will. So he was able to maintain a professional exterior, that Neptune, Saturn, and Libra in the ninth house, jovial and carefree, and I'll create a playground for you. And that moon in Aries is very immature. It's like the 2-year-old, but really deeply conflicted on the inside. And at the beginning, until he just convinced himself that the fantasy was reality. I think that exalted, if you will, Saturn, Neptune, and because Saturn is the ruler of his chart, it created a social elegance and a soft persuasion. He was never the person that was brokering the deal or bartering. No, he had other people do that. And I think his Mercury was able to create a false sense of authority and credibility and like executive composure. Oh, I was on the phone with Bush. Oh, I was on the phone with Clinton. Oh, yeah, I used to work for the CIA. Yeah, okay. Yeah, what did you need? Yeah, I just hung up with the CIA. What'd you need? Right? Whether that was true or not true, we don't know. We'll find out. The truth is going to come out. But this is with the Neptune, Saturn squaring Mercury. Now we have manipulative diplomacy. We have the ability to appear respectable while obstructing the truth. Did you see his deposition that he gave? Oh, he's putting his glasses on, taking them off. I plead the fifth. I mean, he was just endearing, disgusting. And I think he used intellect. He loved smart people, and he used intellect to create illusion. Deepak Chopra, Noam Chomsky, all these intellects to create more authority, to build persona. So he used these people that were brilliant to create that Mercury. See, I'm smart because I'm sitting here with Woody Allen. Disgusting. See, I'm smart because I'm hanging out with kings and the intellectuals at all of these higher organizations from Harvard to UCLA. It was just, they were all pawns in his persona. So he had a lot of laws and contracts and, he made deals. He was a deal maker. And that is very Neptune, Saturn, and Libra in the ninth. He defied the law, Neptune in the ninth. And he built some legitimate facades around unethical systems and operations. So he built the Zorro Ranch, and then he did heinous, horrible, god-awful things, allegedly, on the ranch. So it looked like a place of authority, so it was not questioned. That is the deceitful shadow aspect of Neptune conjunct Saturn in Libra, looking fair and reasonable and socially elegant and not chaotic, right? But just designing the fog, Mercury, and the way I speak to you to disarm you. I think he really, with this Neptune at the apex of his T-square, I think he really started to believe that this system is fair. Like, hey, you got money out of the deal, right? And you benefit, and no one's being hurt. I think he actually disassociated from the harm that he created, the inhumane harm that he created. He rationalized the power imbalance, and he rationalized the pain. He wasn't even aware. He wasn't even in touch with this could even potentially be painful to other people. I think he knew that it could be painful to, I think he knew the power of blackmail. He definitely knew that. But I think he was polite, refined, and horribly disconnected. Horribly. This is disconnection. This is a disassociative disconnection like I've never seen before. This is duplicity and wearing the mask and the illusions like I've never seen before. Let's talk about that Jupiter. It's a really big deal. However, I think Neptune is the most influential planet in his chart, but Taurus in Jupiter wants to expand through acquiring money, acquiring wealth, having expansive sexual expression, sensuality, luxury. This is why he had luxury everything. And I think that that Jupiter in Taurus is an absolute reckless hedonist. And that Uranus in Cancer, I think he had an ability, he created home bases. That Uranus, he created unique home bases and unique social spaces. And he created emotional intrigue. Look how happy the men were when they were hanging out with him. He created emotional security, emotional intrigue. And he created the ability to gather diverse personalities into one private world. So he made eccentric homes. And I think that he made people feel excited about the growth that he could offer them, Uranus and that Jupiter. So I can create you more wealth, right? I can create more eccentric opportunities or a social, intimate environment, if you will, with other like-minded souls, Uranus and Cancer in the seventh house. And in doing so, I can increase your wealth. So there's a lot of excitement here. There's a lot of novelty. There's a lot of unpredictability. It's where your comfort zone meets the edge. Isn't that exactly what he did? Come to my island. Yeah, this edgy side, this magnetic social hosting, creating luxury and comfortable environments. Jupiter and Taurus, I'll give you everything to feel comfortable. Caviar and the best food and champagne, and you'll be so comfortable on my plane. I'll order my plane to come pick you up. And he also, Uranus creates fame. And in the seventh house, it really creates popularity. And so Uranus attracts an unconventional or other famous individuals. And Jupiter expands your network, right? And so together, I think these two planets create this diverse and influential circle. Isn't it sad what he did with it? Like, he could have done so much good in the world, but I feel like he was probably sold to people with really bad agendas, and he was used as a pawn because the way in which he chose to express his chart was almost to just be tempted to not say no. It was gluttonous. And he didn't say no to the deal that he was offered or the deals that he was offered. And then through that, he learned the art of the deal. He learned how to make deals for others. I also think it's very interesting that Pluto rules who he's going to be in the world, because the 10th house is your calling. And the ruler of that 10th house is Pluto. So I want to say something else. Jupiter and Taurus in the fourth house, that is a money marker. That the fourth house is security oriented, and Jupiter in Taurus understands money. And Uranus brings innovation to making money. So he's kind of ahead of financial trends. And he could be connected to really cutting edge ideas. I mean, he was highly involved with art dealers, filmmakers, film producers. He was able to create very expansive concepts in material settings. And Jupiter in Taurus gave him his confidence. I think he felt confident around money. I don't think he even started out with his own money. He got set up with it. Popularity comes from Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, likability. So Uranus creates this electric charisma. Jupiter creates this concept of, or this image of goodwill. And Venus creates likability. I can seduce you. And the 11th house is networks, but the 7th house is also more intimate networks. And so he created a life of social intrigue, and it was pretty easy for him. Again, these are in harmony. But I want to tell you, he has that Chiron square his moon. I know everybody says he liked women, but did he? No, he wasn't kind to them. I think he had issues with his mom. His Chiron sextiles Venus. So he was really good at, I'll fix you, I'll heal your wound, I'll give you money to help your family. And then Chiron sextile Mars. He had a gift of making horrible situations better, right? And then Chiron trine Jupiter. He made it seem like it was a gift that I'll help you and it's easy for me to do. I think, though, that he could have used this in such a powerful and positive way, the Chiron trine Jupiter, because he really could have been a person who could develop his own talents and his own gifts. I think he was absolutely vapid and vacant, a dropout. He was never the professor that he said he was at Darton or whatever the school was called, the fancy New York school. He was not a math teacher. If you look at the photo of him teaching, he has his name misspelled. He has it Epstine, and that's not how you spell his name. So he's writing on a chalkboard with his name misspelled. Yeah, right. And Chiron opposing Uranus. There's the difficulty with relationships. He will have to be free his whole life. He can't probably even allow himself to be in a genuine relationship. That Uranus opposing Chiron in the 7th house. He can't do that genuineness. He has to disassociate. And I think he sees relationships as quick connections. Chiron square Neptune, boundaries are a real issue for him and they're going to create wounds and problems. But he does understand people's weaknesses and he can use remedies for those very weaknesses as drugs, alcohol, sex, feel goods, comforts, getaways, right? To cure and heal you, because he will understand very quickly where your weakness is. And this Mercury and the nodes have the most aspects. They are the most aspected planets in the chart, along with that Neptune. And so I think we can see that in evolutionary astrology, the North Node in Aquarius in the first house really wanted him to become a great humanitarian. And instead, he was an exploiter and a user. And he has a pattern of entitlement reinforced with power and wealth, power structures. And he embedded power structures into intimacy, sexual intimacy, yes, with the victims, but also building friendships. Now I want to show you what Ghislaine's chart does. I hope this gives you a little bit of a view of his chart. I didn't get to talk enough about his infantile Aries moon. I think that Aries moon kept him from really being deep, reflective, or growing. Okay, my friends, we're going to look at Ghislaine's chart. But one thing that I want to say is I think Jeffrey's chart has so much unfathomable pathology and narcissism, and that his free will choices chose cruelty, evilness, and inhumane crimes that are they're unfathomable even to my imagination. And I think Ghislaine's chart is also, it's got a lot of cruelty markers in it as well. But wait till I put the charts together and show you how cruel they can be together. I think they give each other permission on the cruelty. So let's look at her chart. Okay, Here we go. And by the way, this is just a cold reading. I have never spent that much time with her chart. I didn't spend that much time with Jeffrey's either, but her chart's more remarkable than his, to tell you the truth. Like, it's got more energy and more dynamic energy in it, if you will. The very first thing we see is that her eighth house, her eighth house, Mercury, is her chart ruler, and it's attached to her soul, which is attached to her Mars. So she has a Mercury, Sun, Mars conjunction. I mean, even her Venus on her Mars, isn't it funny that they both have a Venus Mars conjunction in different signs? But isn't that funny? So they are preoccupied with love and sex, with men and women, with relationships, with power dynamics between Mars and Venus. But her duplicity is very interesting. So he has a Venus in Pisces. She has a Venus in Sagittarius. Both are ruled by Jupiter. Both, right? Both can create gullibility in others. Like Jupiter can really disarm you. And Sagittarius can really make you feel like you're their best friend, which I think she did. And so that Venus in Sag is quite seductive. She also, like Jeffrey, she has a lot of Capricorn in her chart. Her sun is Capricorn, but his rising sign is Capricorn. And so they both come across as these elite, aristocratic elites that have an air of authority. She had a little bit more of a right than he did just because of her father, Maxwell. Her father was a media magnate, media mogul, who basically kind of owned the media across different continents. And he was extraordinarily rich and powerful, just rubbed shoulders with Mother Teresa and the Queen of England and the King of England and presidents and Elizabeth Taylor. Anyways, he absolutely adored Ghislaine. And so she grew up in an aristocracy. Very interesting. A lot of people feel like when her father died, she turned to Jeffrey to keep up that lifestyle. But we don't really know the truth about how they truthfully met. But let's look at this. I find this very interesting that she has a Leo moon, right? And we're going to put these charts together. I find it very interesting that her North Node is in Leo in the fourth house. She's supposed to learn about true love, but she comes in with a South Node in Aquarius conjunct Jupiter. So that, and it's wide. I shouldn't say it's conjunct. It's actually too wide to be conjunct. But we could give it to her. It's 11 degrees away. And that creates a royalty. Remember, Sagittarius, Leo, Jupiter, those are the royalty planets. And so with that past life also as royalty. However, she was the ice queen. With Aquarius there, she was all alone on an island by herself, if you will. Very, very detached from emotion. And that's in her 10th house. So with that being in her 10th house, she was a very prominent, powerful figure in her own right, but she was cut off of emotion. She definitely probably was not the benevolent queen. But look at also how her South Node is in a square aspect to Neptune. So now we have this Neptune again as the apex in a T-square between Jupiter opposing the moon. Wow. It's just stunning. Let's put these side by side. So her wound is about status and power with Chiron in Pisces in the 10th house. And that 10th house is really important because status really means a lot to her. Her dad was this media mogul who was just larger than life, kind of had the world in the palm of his hands and kind of controlled people because he could get stories on them. It's very similar to what Jeffrey did with get stories on you, right? Like the blackmail. Mm-hmm. And so you always wanted to have Robert Maxwell tell a good story about you. You certainly didn't want him to ruin your reputation out there in the world. But when he died, he was apparently bankrupt. So they went from having this glamorous life where his yacht was named after her, Ghislaine, and apparently he fell overboard. Don't know how that happened, but that's what was told. He died on November 5th, 1991, off of his yacht called Lady Ghislaine off of the Canary Islands, and it's a death that is shrouded in mystery. Anyways, after that, it was discovered that he took thousands of pounds. He's British. He took thousands of pounds from his employees' pensions to prop up his company. And when he died, his naked body washed up to shore, I think. His naked body was found, but he was completely bankrupt. And so I think this is a huge part of Ghislaine's wound. The 10th house is the house of the father. So he played a role or an illusion, if you will, around being a massive billionaire, but he was in deep financial debt. Anyways, her wound in the 10th house right here with the south node near to her Chiron in the 10th house, she's very preoccupied with status and power. And I think this is a very big part of her wound and her identity. Anyways, it's very interesting to look at their two charts. And it's sort of sad that she truly missed her calling. And the 8th house sun conjunct Mars in the 7th house, in the shadow expression of that, are we in Capricorn, are we surprised that she found status, power, dominance, and authority through selling sex? Venus Mars conjunct her sun in the 8th house, and using her relationships, right, to manipulate and coerce women to sell sex. Also, I'm very curious. I think both charts are preoccupied with death, and both charts are preoccupied with dying, death. Had it not been in the shadow side, death could have been synonymous with transformation. But there is a huge Pluto influence here. It's wide, but Pluto is opposing her wound. Pluto and Uranus are opposing her Chiron. And although she's born many years later, isn't it interesting that Jeffrey also has Uranus opposing Chiron? And so this Uranus opposing Chiron shows up as both of them have themes. Let's put their charts together so you can see, how does Jeffrey affect Ghislaine and how does Ghislaine affect Jeffrey? Okay, look at this chart. First of all, Ghislaine on the outer ring and Jeffrey on the inner ring. Ghislaine does secret work. Her soul, her Mars, her Mercury, and her Venus are all in his house of secrecy and self-undoing. Very interesting, isn't it? Some other correlations here is she Saturnizes him. Her Saturn sits on his sun. And so she is probably the only person in the world that could be his authority, be his boss, be his teacher. And I do wonder if she was actually the mastermind. She got to see how a lot of these operations worked with her father. And I think even though she was younger, she taught Jeffrey not to just be reckless or rebellious, but she is a Capricorn. She's going to take this job very, very seriously, right? There are so many thousands of aspects. I'm just pointing out a couple of the big ones. Her moon is on his south node, so in the 7th house. So in a previous lifetime, I do think she loved him, but I highly doubt. I mean, maybe they started out as a small love affair. Jeffrey can't be faithful, and he doesn't probably even believe in monogamy. But I do think she loved him in a past lifetime, and they have karma. They have a lot of karma together. They have opposite nodal axes. So who he is supposed to become, she has already been in a past lifetime, and who she is supposed to become, he has already been. I also want to tell you it's very karmic that his Pluto is on her north node. She really could have helped him transform into a genuine power rather than the wrong kind of power. This she promoted and propelled maybe the weakness inside of him. Like she exploited his weakness and his wound, right? To create an empire, if you will. That's that north node on Pluto. And in order to quote remedy his vulnerability, his insecurities, and to show him how he can become the most powerful person in the world. In a sick and twisted way, they both needed each other to become more evil. Her moon in Leo and his moon in Aries, um, 7 degrees apart, in the seventh house and third house, selling emotional fulfillment through relationships or networking emotional fulfillment through relationships, pretending to be everybody's best friend, pretending to, what do you want? What do you need? I can serve it up to you. And actually putting it on blast. Did you guys hear about the Wayfair theory? Just go look into it. I won't go into it here. But this network is like in plain sight. Go look up Jeffrey Epstein um, trafficking young girls through Wayfair. Just go look that up. But both their moons in the seventh and the third, they had giant networks. She had the social network and he had kind of the intellectual business network. And together they became really, really powerful, making that network vulnerable and indebted to them, emotionally blackmailing, right? And they masterminded this together with Pluto, the blackmail, and Moon, his Pluto and her Moon, emotional blackmail. And he had already done this in a past life. My God, the synastry here is just, I could go on and on about it. Let's see. I do think that their moons are in very precarious places. So you can see that her Capricorn sun squares his Aries moon. Like, who's actually going to be the boss here? I think he was like an impetuous child to her, and she was the cool, composed authority, if you will. And then you can also see that it's very wide. Her moon is at 14 Leo, and his sun is at 0 degrees Aquarius. It's in an opposition. It is a full moon aspect between the two of them. Um, I don't think they really were in it out of love for one another ever. They might have had a tryst here and there. Now, when you're working with the second house and the eighth house, you're working with the houses that are the money access, but also the sex access, the body. The second house kind of being the sensuality of the human body, and the eighth house actually being the penetration. But what's interesting is she has her Pluto at 10 degrees Virgo opposing his Mars Venus. And so this is literally like in the shadow expression. Again, I want to say if you have any of these aspects, you, my sweet friend, are not going to, you're absolutely not going to express it this way. You're not Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine. Also, you're here learning with me. And so you really want to understand the psychology of people and yourself. And so you're already a more reflective, older soul, deeper thinker than these people. So remember that these aspects go on a continuum, and we're talking about the lowest possible form, the lowest possible expression of these planets. So with Pluto opposing Mars and Venus in the second house, we're literally selling sex for money, and we're probably threatening death. Like the commodity here involves Pluto, which is the planet of death, sex, and transformation. I also want to point out that they had Jupiter squares. I think these people had a common goal and a common mission. They both wanted a lavish and rich lifestyle. I really don't think that Ghislaine just sacrificed herself for Jeffrey's benefit and gave him foot massages whenever he wanted. I think that was all an illusion. All of this was smoke and mirrors. They have a 12th house relationship, basically. But look at how they have Jupiter square Jupiter. These people had even different a different belief system. They got the same goal. They have the same goal, but they got there for very different beliefs and very different reasons. And these reasons clashed. And I think that we'll find out later, because the truth will set you free and the truth is going to come out. But I think that there were a lot of conflicts and power struggles. And one was not just yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, obedient to the other. There was real power struggles inside their own relationship. Jupiter squaring Jupiter, we don't believe in the same things. We might have the same goal, but we're going to get there very differently. Our belief systems are different. However, they created such a big problem for themselves that they then became probably codependent on one another. Like, you can't leave. They imprisoned themselves into their story, into their heinous crimes, imprisoned them, held them hostage to one another. There's no getting out of this. Oh my gosh, I have got to show you the next chart. You're not going to believe this. But first, I want to ask you, will you join this channel? It puts 10 cents a day into my pocket, and it allows me to hire an editor and do these videos for you. And I cannot thank you enough if you are already a member. It means that absolute world to me, because I could not devote this kind of time and pull myself away from all the readings that I do in order to do more educational videos for everybody. So I'm very, very grateful. And at the very least, will you please like and subscribe, and also share this video with somebody who you might think finds it interesting, because this kind of content is a little bit risky and gutsy to do, and it gets suppressed, and I would really appreciate it. I really appreciate you being here. And if you like this kind of content, I can do so much more. We can look into so many more things. If you want me to do this, but I just need 500 people at the very least to like this video and leave a comment. If you would like extended content on this subject matter, we can go deeper into the Jeffrey Epstein story through an astrological lens. And I would consider it, but I would just need to know if the interest is there and if the video isn't getting suppressed. This is what I want to show you. This is absolutely unbelievable. This just blows my mind. This is their composite chart. So how does a composite chart work? It takes your chart and my chart and it makes it one chart. So there's you, and then there's me, and then there's us. So what do we create together? And that's where I think their secrets lie. So look at what they create together. They create a Capricorn relationship in the 10th house. What's that about? Power, money, success, ambition. Authority. I am the authority of the world. I want to be remembered. I want to have a legacy that says I matter and I'm the boss and I am in control. So the two of them together, they're like two prongs to create one prong. They needed each other to run this heinous enterprise. And heinous it was. And every single day, by the way, I'm filming this on 2/17. By the time you get it, it will be much later. And we are going to even know so much more about the horrible, grotesque things that they did to girls and children and boys. Girls, boys, and children. It is just god awful. It is sickening. And so if we just want to wrap it up here and never speak of them again, that's okay too. But I do think that this is the crucible of this Saturn-Neptune conjunction taking off the mask. And I do think that this is the domino that will topple all the other dominoes. I really do. That's why I'm spending so much time on it. That's why I think this is so important. But just look at the emphasis, the gluttony in this chart. So they're Pisces rising. The shadow sign of that is just complete fantasy and delusion, delulu. And look at Neptune in Scorpio. Scorpio, the sign of death and transformation. Yeah, they transform people's lives through inflicting trauma. And it's in the 8th house of death and transformation. They didn't do the healthy side of their planets. They did the lowest, most grotesque expression. The 9th house, Saturn in Sagittarius in the 9th house. I believe there's a religious aspect to everything they did. And I also believe that they could have used religion as a cover up too. Saturn opposing the moon in the 9th and the 3rd house. These people are so cruel. It's like Saturn in Sagittarius in the 9th house. I am right. I am the God. I am Zeus. I am the ruler of all rulers, right? Could care less about, is in an opposition to the heart in stone cold Gemini. Why do I say that? And if you have a Gemini moon, you're not stone cold. You're here working with astrology and you have other aspects. These people are literally like the lowest of low. And they are humans. They are the lowest human expression that is even imaginable. I couldn't have even imagined that people were like this. But with Saturn cutting off the moon, it's literally the castration of the heart. And it does so in a very cold and unemotional way. That's the Gemini moon. That Gemini moon is in the 3rd house, caring about the network of people, developing a network that is dependent on me. The moon is the womb. The moon can represent pregnancy and it represents females. So the authority, Saturn in Sagittarius, my religion, my God, has me reject you. Moon has me reject you, cut you off, cut you out, cut you up, has me reject you. And I feel nothing. Like it's just so cold. Now together they're Mars Venus. They both have a Mars Venus conjunction. His is in Pisces. And hers is in Capricorn, Capricorn Sagittarius. Now they have it in Aquarius with their wound. So they have their wound in Mars, Venus now. And we know Jeffrey felt sexually wounded. I don't know what Ghislaine's story is around her sexuality. We'll have to research that. Let's research that. Internet sleuths, I want you to leave comments. If you will, interact with this video and just leave a comment. You can leave anything. You can, I don't know, you can talk about Britney Spears if you want. You can talk about, the stars and lovely things if you want. Just interact with this video so it doesn't get buried. Pluto is opposing the wound. So by wounding others, they felt like this was the elixir to remedy themselves. Or they just got off on living in their wound, or they just justified. Pluto opposing Chiron, which a lot of us have. Like I actually have that natally, and I don't go around wounding people. But that Chiron is next to Mars. And so now we're not using Mars for our benefit. We're using Mars as a weapon. And now we're dealing with Mars opposing Pluto. Mars opposing Pluto. I mean, that is one of the hardest aspects there is. Now we have power and dominance and sadism. I'm going to tell you right now, neither one of these people, I don't believe, would and their own existence on earth. There's too much narcissism. They really believe in their authority and their power. And had money and power and status and ambition and gluttony and fantasy not have completely ruined and corroded and corrupted them, they could have done something magnificent with that power, but they chose instead to lure, bait, and trap people into their snare to ruin them. The people who were bought, the people who were buying, and the people who were being sold. The people on both sides of the spectrum were being used. Their composite chart with Uranus opposing Mars and Venus is also just eccentric, out of bounds, reckless, sex, shocking. I think what we are going to find out about these people is that the crimes they committed are worse than the horror story that any of us could have ever imagined, and maybe even worse than any horror story we've ever watched already on TV. Like, this makes Hannibal Lecter look like kind of nice guy. When you look at the shadow side of their composite chart, the question doesn't really even need to be truly asked, only because the answer does not matter. But I wonder if either one of these people could have been as evil without the other person. It's almost their ability to conspire and to interweave themselves created so much power that they both needed one another to live out their plot, their plan, to execute it. And all for what? I mean, nothing is this important to ruin people's lives. Nothing is worth that. How somebody can sell out their humanity, their morals, is just, it's beyond me. I am absolutely sick to my stomach, and I am brokenhearted, and I have been obsessively sad. And do not let the fact that we are seeing this is being illuminated during this eclipse and during the greatest conjunction of your life, do not let that go by you. Like, this is not going away. This is going to topple dynasties. And if you haven't watched my 5 to 7 other videos on this subject, please do. Now, one thing I want to say is that if you've gotten this far and you are interested in astrology, you can use astrology as a very powerful tool. It cannot tell us if a person is like what race a person is. I can't see if you're Japanese, Chinese, American, Ethiopian. I can't see that by your chart. Just like that, I cannot see if you are a monster. I can see, like, if it was to go wrong, what is the most negative expression of your chart going wrong? And if you were to develop yourself in your enlightenment, this is the antithesis. Today's exercise was the antithesis of enlightenment. But my God, what they could have done with the goodness that they did have, that they chose not to do, is really mind-blowing to me. And so just remember, if you have some of these aspects, you are coming from the higher expression. Anyways, if this fascinates you, consider joining me at my Athena Academy of Astrology and consider really learning genuine, deeper astrology. at the Athena Academy. You can go to shopsoulnavigation.com and you can see all the different classes. You can cherry pick. You can just take one, or you can actually work your way through my whole certification program where you learn to become a professional astrologer. It's really, really powerful and rewarding work. And if you really want to transform your soul forever, consider coming and learning with me in Seattle, May 14, 15, 16, and 17, right here in person. We're going to work with your progress charts, and then we're going to work with heavenly timing techniques, helping you read a chart to be able to figure out what the very best times are for you for your most important events in life. So I have all kinds of offerings. And if you're just interested in learning more about your own chart, go get my Soul's Design Report or my starter package at shopsoulnavigation.com and go check out all of my reports and my charts that I offer. I have so many. I have about 100 different products that you can go check out and look at. And in the meantime, please leave me a comment and let me know if you like this subject or if you're ready to tackle something new. Anyways, wherever you live in the world, I do hope your heart is happy. I hope you personally are well. And I want you to know that right here from Seattle, Washington, my home, I am wishing you the very, very best. Bye for now.